Good afternoon, everyone. So glad to see everybody with us tonight. This is the Loganville City Council work session, Monday, May the 6th, 2024. Roll call. All council members are present. The mayor is present, and the support staff is present. We do need a motion to approve the agenda or to adjust the agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. Okay, we'll move right into our business, going with Planning and Zoning Committee. Lisa Newberry.
Robbie's going to come to the podium and talk through the cases that we have for tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As it relates to the first two cases before you, case V24-015 ENS Rentals and 164 Bobby Boss Drive, and case V24-018 ENS Rentals, 164 Bobby Boss Drive. We have recently received some information related to two additional variances that this application is seeking through the Water and Sewer Department. As we do not have those cases prepared for you, it is my recommendation that we table these two cases for 30 days to allow that process to go through so you can address all four variances at one point in time. But because this was advertised as a public hearing, if there is anybody here that would like to speak for or against that project, please feel free to step up to the microphone now.
Okay, you need a motion?
I do.
Okay.
Yes, so I'd like to make a motion that we table case number V24-015
30 days.
for 30 days.
And also 1-8.
We're doing separate motions.
Yeah, we have to do separate
Okay.
motions.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. It is tabled for 30 days.
Okay, and I'd like to make a motion to table case number V24-018 for 30 days. Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Table for 30 days. Okay?
All right, next on the agenda is case number V24-016. Southern Yankee requested a major variance for the property located at southwest corner of Covington Street and Hodges Street, Loganville, Georgia, 30052, map and parcel number LG110008 and LG110008A. The present zoning is R44. The ordinance and section from which relief is being sought from is zoning ordinance 119.208C, minimum lot width for minor subdivision. Both the staff recommendation and planning commission recommendation were for approval.
Mr. Mayor and Council, did everybody get a copy of what we got proposed? Is that, everybody have one?
everybody did.
I want to make
Yes.
sure I tried to get it out there. To make you maybe more familiar with this property was owned by Mike and Ann Jones. Ann Jones owns it, and she's approves of what he's planning on doing because she's going to be living right next door to it. All of these lots are going to be over an acre, and the builder here has got some examples of other homes that they built that would be similar to what he's going to here. So I'll let Zeb share with you. Then if you got any questions, let us know.
This is just a larger shot of what we're doing. I appreciate y'all hearing the case. My name is Zeb Barbie. I was born and raised here in Gwinnett County. I've focused on building in Gwinnett for many years. In the past few years, more in Forsyth County and also in City of Beaufort. Here in the last month, we've closed a few homes. I think one of them is on there now that we closed in Beaufort. But with this case, we're looking to try to get 6 lots out of this piece of property, which would end up being an acre or a little over per lot, which I feel is pretty good these days, and I think that's what a lot of people are looking for, and that's kind of our niche in Forsyth County in the past, is buying a large parcel and splitting it up into 1 to 2 acre lots. And it's worked well for us, and we think it would be great for Loganville.
Okay, I'll ask the first question if that's okay, or whoever. The variance you're trying to get okayed is going from 150 front to 140.
Yes, sir, and that would just be for, as highlighted on there, and as well as on this board, which is lots 1, I think it's 1, 2, 4, and 5.
And everything else is per code.
Yes, sir. Yes, that's the only change we're looking for. Yep.
Any other questions?
I think it's Robbie Mike. Somewhere in your packet, you said they needed to work with the utilities company. Does that sound familiar? Let me find it. I had it marked and I just lost it.
Yeah, it was to make sure there was adequate sewer and water, I think.
Yeah, was
Yeah,
that done?
Yes,
Okay.
that's just a caveat I put in on most of ours, just to make sure that they understand. We will not let building move forward without water and sewer approval,
Okay.
so.
Thanks.
I just have a question aesthetically, because I like your products.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Are you going to build all 6 of the houses in a different style, or are you going to pick a style and run all 6 of those the same way?
To be honest with you, we like the ranch style that you see here. That's our typical plan. I stuck another 2-story plan on here that it won't be, if we do a 2-story, it won't be like what is on that picture. But I wanted to show that, we do 2-story homes. I really would like to do at least 1 or 2 of the 6 as a 2-story home. But we love this ranch plan, to be honest with you. We think it looks good. It's a master on Main, which a lot of people can't find these days. So majority will be a ranch, a wider, larger ranch plan and all of them will be side entry because of the width of the lot. None of them will be front entry garages.
Good. Yeah, because you're going to be setting the tone for that street. I actually live on that street.
Okay, good.
And so I'm very appreciative of what you're doing and that you're coming here, and I do like the ranch. I'm a big fan of the farmhouse industrial or whatever.
Yes,
In
ma'am.
like Monroe, they've kind of come in and created a style.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was wondering though, like, are you going to, I don't want them really to be cookie cutters, so that's what I'm saying. You're going to vary them up a little bit.
Yes, and to be honest, when you say farmhouse, what I do a lot of, I'm not a big fan of siding. Of course, you're going to be doing that on the sides and back most of the time, but we do a lot of board and batten. And farmhouses typically are board and batten. I would say majority of these would be at least 50% or more board and batten. Probably more like 80% board batten on the fronts.
And so you're going to put the houses, that's what I was looking at, because I watched the planning and zoning, but as I said.
Sorry,
that
I know, I was
couldn't-
off to the side.
Yeah, I couldn't hear a lot of what you were saying. So you're actually going to be putting the houses more close to the street.
Well, so the way the building setbacks are on these lots, as you can see, they're like a pie
Correct.
shape, right? So we can only back them up so far. We're going to back them all up except for one lot that's a really wide, I think it's lot 6, I believe. Other than that one, all of them are going to go back as far as we could possibly go per building setbacks. Yeah.
And so most of your garages will be rear entry or side
They'll
entry.
all
So
be-
your driveway will
They'll
be.
all be side entry.
So your driveways will be coming down the side of each house and
Yes.
coming, okay.
Yeah, they're, unless there's something can prevent us from getting a side entry, we're 100% doing side entry. I can't, I don't like front entries if I don't have to do
And you're
them.
going to be building all 6 at the same time? You're not going to build one and then, are they're going to be?
That's our plan.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
You need a variance because of the pie shape. You can't get it on the sides. The sides take you in so much corner to corner that you have to move forward a little bit by 10 feet to get it on the property.
Yeah, per our engineer, this is what they're telling me we would have to do to be able to get 6 in across the front like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Just one confirmation. I saw the planning and zoning meeting. You indicate you're going to leave as many trees as possible.
Yes. Now,
Okay.
of course, the lots 4, 5, and 6, I'm real bad, I think it's Hodges right there. All the pines are up front. We're going to have to remove most all of those because that's where the houses are going to sit, obviously. And then within probably, I like to do like 40 feet around that pines. If there's some nice hardwoods that
Yeah.
are 40 or more feet away, we're not touching anything.
Okay, yeah, the
Yeah,
pines.
the pines, nobody wants that really close to their home anyway.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, definitely half the lot back is going to be pretty much completely undisturbed. I mean, there would be no reason for us to do anything back there.
Right.
It would look better natural. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take the vote on Thursday night.
Thank you.
We need to make sure and finish public hearing if there's anybody who wants to speak additionally in favor or anybody wants to speak against. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak in favor of this variance request? Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak against this variance request? Okay, it'd be appropriate to close the public meeting this time.
All right, next on the agenda is case 24-019, related to the replacing the current zoning map dated April 8th, 2021, and replaced with the zoning map dated May 9th, 2024. And this will be known as the official zoning map. There's been no changes since this was first introduced. I think it was 2 or 3 months ago. So, excuse me?
There's been no changes made since it was, okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, the date was changed, but beyond that, no date, no changes.
Any questions? Okay. Okay, so now we're opening a public hearing. Would anybody like to come up and speak in favor or against? Seeing as now, we'll close the public hearing.
I don't have my glasses on right now, but I looked at this at home, and there's a piece of property, a 10-acre tract at the end of Lee Bird Road on 81, and that went commercial sometime last year. I think you were the one that helped get that go commercial, but it wasn't marked as commercial on the map, so I just figured I'd let you know that.
Should it be, Robbie? I don't know where it is on the map, but.
Oh, yeah, because we approved the line streets and stuff. Yeah. We'll update that one. All right, yeah, because, I mean, we'll have to do it, yeah.
Okay, if there's no one else would like to speak, we'll close the public hearing. Okay.
All right, and then the last case before you is to, case number 24-020, to amend Chapter 119-211 of the City of Loganville zoning ordinance regarding the RM4 multifamily residential duplex district.
I do have a question about that. So this will be, how many RM4 zonings currently are in the area that will be affected? None?
I mean, when you change a classification, if it's already zoned RM4, it holds the original zoning classification. It's only impacted if it changes its zoning. So this would impact any future RM4 zoning.
Okay, so any property that's, so this doesn't, it's not retroactive, it's what's RM4 has to adhere to the RM4 rules when it was zoned. And it's if somebody came forward to request an RM4 zoning.
Yes, so long as there
then-
are, I mean, they're bound by what their, any conditions that are put in place on that
Public
property as well.
Hang on, let me clarify that. Let me clarify that. If anyone has received an RM zoning request, okay, and they have certain conditions applied and those sort of things, and when that property was zoned RM4, then they would be subject to the conditions and the rules of that RM4 that are available at the time that it was zoned. But if there's RM4 sitting on the ground right now, that doesn't have any specific conditions, and then they wanted to come forward and they fit within these criteria of the distance requirements that were in place here, then they could build under this new added structure of the single-family detached.
So that's what I'm asking, are there any properties currently that would fall into that? And then, Paul, this is a question for you, because when we were reading this, it says if it's struck out, it's this, and if it's underlined, it's that. On page 65 of our packet, number 23, 34, 45, and 56, I'm kind of confused, because like in 23, the 2 is struck through and it's underlined a 3. So are we saying that it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because you're striking out some of the numbers and you left those in there?
Yes, because number 2 was added, so everything just counts down.
Okay, so then what it means is, under the RM4 zoning, that we are allowing home occupation?
You already do.
Okay,
See, there's no, the home occupations are already existing. All we did was added paragraph 2.
Okay.
And so that just renumbered paragraphs 3, 4, 5, and 6.
okay, all right, thank you.
Paragraph 2, Paul, that starts out single-family detached dwellings.
Yes.
What does that mean, the 2640 feet from the center line of the intersection of Main Street?
Means a half-mile radius from the intersection of Main Street and
That would be,
Covington
can you
Street.
give me kind of an idea from that square to where?
I
It
mean,
mentions Covington on here, is that,
I'm sorry?
it mentions Covington Street on here.
At the intersection of Main and Covington Street, which is considered, from all of my historical research, sort of the central intersection of town.
Okay.
It's a half-mile
Either way.
radius. A circle, a half-mile circle, a
Okay.
radius. So it is equated to the concept of a ped shed, right? So we've had a lot of conversations in your discussions about revitalizing downtown and having walkability. So this type of product would be available within a half-mile walkable radius of your downtown core.
Okay. Robbie had said the staff was working on this already, correct? But it was a slow process. Robbie, did I understand that correctly?
What I'd mentioned was, is we were looking at perhaps a new zoning classification to allow for smaller houses inside the city limits. But yes, that would be a much longer process, because A, we'd have to draft it, but B, we also have to go through the state for approval through the DCA for any zoning classification changes like that. So this is kind of a good fix for right now until we can get where we want to be with that new classification.
Do we need a fix right now, Paul or Danny or whoever knows the land areas?
I'm not sure that I understand the question.
Oh, I guess I'm just curious as to why we're doing this right now. Is there some land available to build on within this radius that this
There's-
might come in handy?
I don't have any knowledge whether or not there's any
Okay.
land to build on.
So it's just being done to be done?
Well, I think it's being done to give builders a new option inside the city. This would allow something new and something that would maybe fit that gap that we're missing inside of our city right now between apartments and single-family homes. As we mentioned it earlier with the Line Street project,
Right.
we have that missing middle.
Right.
Well, this is kind of addressing that in a more immediate way, because at least this way, we're controlling our future right now with the changes that we're making to the RM4 and enclosing it into a finite area in the downtown area as a part of a revitalization tool.
Okay. I guess my confusion is, I didn't realize we had any land down here to build something like this, other than where we're sitting right now, the City Hall area. Is there some land that somebody knows about?
Well, I mean, at any time, somebody could put a house up for sale, and just like anybody else, come and ask for a rezone and go from what they are, R44 or R16, to, they could request this zoning, where they could build up to 4 units on that acre. There's just another zoning, I think, and I'm probably, stop me if I'm speaking out of turn, it's just another zoning classification that someone could request, because they could buy a home, bulldoze it, and ask to do something like this. That's what I understand it to
Okay.
be.
Okay. Okay, I was just curious, because the rush is making me a little nervous.
I have a question. So, Section B, permitted uses, number 2, everything in that is only within the half-mile radius of downtown, correct?
Correct. The single-family detached component, which is the singular addition
Right.
to this, is only available if the parent parcel is located prior to subdivision, if the parent parcel touches within a half-mile radius
Got it.
of the downtown, meaning single-family detached RM4 that comports to this subparagraph 2 would not be available on what I call the periphery of
The rest of the city.
Loganville. The periphery of Loganville.
Right.
out on the outskirts or the edges. It's only available if you're within a walkable distance of downtown.
So
I mean,
regular RM4 still applies outside this defined district?
Correct.
Okay, then the.
Yeah, permitted use 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 would still be available everywhere in the city.
But
Permitted
2 is
use
specific
is
to-
only available within that walkable downtown core.
Then the only other question I have was number 12 in item 2. No unpainted treated wood is allowed on any dwelling except on porch flooring. What about fences?
I don't think that applies. Dwellings, it's talking about the dwelling itself.
Okay,
So I don't think that would apply to fences, because
Okay.
a fence is considered like a appurtenance or some sort of other structure.
okay.
Okay, if no other questions, we'll open the public hearing. Would anyone like to come up and speak for or against? Yes, sir?
Mayor, Council, good evening. My name is Neville Allison, 3500 Lennox Road, Suite 625, Atlanta, Georgia, 30326. Good to see everybody again this evening. I apologize I wasn't able to communicate and send in kind of my thoughts on this issue back before it even went to Planning Commission or at Planning Commission. I actually just found out about it on Friday, before the weekend. And to Council Member Wolf's point, that's pretty quick for a zoning code change. A lot goes into the nuances of these codes, and I just wanted to come before you. I love the idea that staff is being proactive and that the city council is being proactive in adding a housing type allowed under a category. That's exactly what you should be doing for adding vibrancy to your downtown, kind of, the ethos of this. But there are a couple of items in this proposed ordinance that actually, I believe unintentionally, do the opposite of that. And I just wanted to point them out to you. In permitted uses, number 2, number V or 5, there's a requirement that single-family homes have to be rear-loaded, which means that the garages have to be in the back. And so, if you think about a 4-unit to the acre, single-family detached, whether you're on a 30 or 40-foot wide lot, what rear load does is it takes away your backyard. And so no matter how small of a lot you want, that's kind of an American staple, is to have your backyard with your grill back there or patio, and sit there in the back. And when you do rear load, that's where your driveway is. And so what you're doing is restricting the use of that. There's lots of other reasons for why you don't see rear load garages really outside of the urban core of Atlanta, and some small exceptions in downtowns. It's not an efficient design. It's very difficult to grab the unit per acre what you're allowed under the category. It's more expensive to build because you're having to essentially create custom floor plans that don't exist otherwise. And so again, wanted to point that issue out. There's a couple more. Number 6, that's alleys shall be a minimum of 15 feet wide. I'm not quite sure if that's meant to be the right-of-way of the alley, the pavement of the alley, the back of curb to back of curb of the alley. It's very ambiguous, and I think would create problems for staff going forward. Number 7, about an 812 roof pitch. From what I've seen, none of the other zoning categories require an 812 roof pitch. If you drive around, you really don't see 812 roof pitches on existing homes. And so the idea of infill development is to have it blend in with what's naturally there. 812 roof pitch, for those of you that aren't in the building business, is a very steep roof line. It goes tall. You see it in downtown Grayson, which they've since removed. It's onerous on the builder. It's more expensive, and it looks weird. Particularly when the other homes don't have that. Number 8, dwellings shall be constructed on crawl space foundations. Again, that's not something that's required in any of your other zoning categories. My question would be, why are crawl spaces required under RM4 single family detached? Typically what you see is a slab construction or a basement. This, again, is just restrictive and limiting on what a builder's can do. We've got another point here on 15 where it talks about, it says, covered front entrance must be located within 12 feet of the public right-of-way. Well, there's also a requirement that you have to have a 6-foot porch. And so if the front entrance, which would be your front door, has to be 12 feet from the public right-of-way, you're putting your front porches 6 feet from the public right-of-way. Smartly, the code defines different front setbacks for different street types. You know, Highway 20 is not C.S. Floyd. And, you know, there's collector roads, there's state highways, and that's why for the attached product, you have varying front setbacks. Here, under single-family detached, it's only one setback is allowed, and the code contradicts itself as written. Again, it's showing that you want to push a front porch 6 feet from the public right-of-way, and I think using Highway 20 as an example, that would be a big mistake. You want to be set back further from a larger road. I think those were all of the points. There's a chart here on number C that has all of the setbacks for the attached product, but there isn't one of those charts for the detached product, which again, I just think, given a little bit more time, massaging this code and getting some input, you know, from the building community, if you guys are interested in it, I think would put the best foot forward to put Loganville on the track for success, or keep it Loganville on the track for success. So with that's really all I had to say. I just think some more noodling over this and massaging could do everyone some good. So appreciate your time tonight, and if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else like to speak? This time we'll close the public hearing. And Mr. Mayor, I think that's all we have.
I have a
Okay,
couple-
appreciate that input. Do what now?
I have
Hey,
a
Ann,
question.
you got a question?
So what are, I mean, just looking at this, what are the origins of like the 812 roof pitch? Do we have that in the city anywhere? I mean, is there? I don't see Robbie back there. I'm just curious.
He's here. He's back in the corner.
Oh,
What do you mean, what are the origins?
yeah, how did it get here? Like, did we take this from another downtown? I mean.
Yes, we did.
We did, okay. Sorry for the trip. I have another question,
I
sorry.
guess the question
Sorry,
most
Robbie, I have another
council members would have would be,
Well, hey,
with this information, are we okay and ready to move forward on Thursday night? If we are,
That's totally up to you guys.
that's right.
But it's in order and ready to be adopted if you're ready. You've had your public hearing and you can take action on it on Thursday night if you're ready.
Okay.
I had another question. I do have a question. So, sorry again. So it says on 15 that dwelling shall have a covered front entry with a minimum floor area, blah, 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 located within 12 feet of the public right-of-way. So does that mean like the front of the covered porch area, if you had a front entry, should be 12 feet of the public right-of-way?
That would be a minimum distance.
Minimum. It could be closer, but it couldn't be any further?
No, it could be further. It
Okay.
can't be any closer.
Within 12 feet? It doesn't say
Within 12
minimum.
feet of the right-of-way,
Yeah,
okay?
the right of way, so that's another,
It's envisioning a 12-foot front yard.
Well, I guess my question is, on the back, and I'm not a zoning, this is not my committee, I'm money, right? I'm numbers. But it says back in the other page, the minimum front yard has to be,
For two-family dwellings. That's the
right,
change.
35 feet from a collector street. So how does that work? The front porch and the 12 feet and the 35 feet from the front yard?
Because you're creating a new category of single-family detached. The table C addresses two-family dwellings. the
Do we
duplex.
have a table for single-family detached?
No, you have the conditions and the metrics contained within subsection 2. These are very common
Okay.
conditions that are used on infill in-town developments.
Okay. That's all the questions.
Any other questions?
So now, Paul, when you were going to bring us the ordinances and we were going to get a month and then review, did we get this last? I don't-
Yes, but the only problem with that on zoning, that is absolutely correct. But on zoning ordinances, once it goes to planning and zoning, your ZPL laws are ticking, so you have 15 and 45. So that is a distinction or a exception, I guess, to that concept. I'm always going to bring you things and give them to you over time, but once they get in the hopper and they get advertised, then you're advertised in your 15 and 45 for ZPL. So you can certainly not take action, but you had to have your public hearing tonight. So you can always table it on Thursday and not take action on it if you so choose. But once you get once your ZPL, once he advertises and he has his public hearing at planning and zoning, you got to have your public hearing at the next month's meeting. So if y'all want to table it, you absolutely can. But at the end of the day, I guess trying to make sure we're always giving it as much time as we can, ZPL is going to truncate that a little bit. Now, if you go for a full formal code rewrite, which at some point, I've told y'all need to consider, we need to do, you've got a lot of piecemeal. This is another addition to your code. This is another stair step in the right direction. But, when you go to a formal code rewrite, which is a big undertaking and something much more big than what was the group that came in? Sizemore did, it is a multi-step process that'll take you in excess of a year with multiple public hearings and those sort of things. But then when you adopt the final one, you're stuck to the 1545.
Okay, so we'll make those decisions on Thursday night. Okay? Anybody got any more questions? Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Now we'll move to Finance Human Resource Committee. Ann Hunsinger.
I have no questions, and I have no actionable items.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Moving now to Public Safety Committee. Melanie Long.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no actionable items, but I want to say how good it is to see Chief Lowry sitting in our
Isn't that the truth?
things tonight. But that's all I have for tonight.
Very good, thank you. Now we'll move to Public Utilities Transportation Committee. Bill Duvall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we had a Utilities and Transportation Committee meeting a couple weeks ago, and to discuss the water rates. You all have it in your packet. The city recommends that we seek approval of new water rates for water, sewer, and stormwater fees. They've been working on this for quite a while. What the city has proposed is a across-the-board 12% increase. That's for residential, senior, commercial, and stormwater. Danny, we had a draft presentation in our committee meeting, and Danny's updated it and revised it. We're going to go through that now.
I feel like a department head up here talking. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to present to you the water rates. As Councilman Duvall said, we had a committee meeting and we presented this and had a marching order to come back and present this, plus with another option, which we'll get to. So this is a proposed rate increase for the utilities department for sewer and stormwater. And we'll just go through the slides. You can stop me if you have questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Okay, Kyle, you ready? All right, revenue. So just to educate everyone, tax dollars does not fund utilities departments. They are separate. Utilities operates off what's called user fees, which you use your water, your sewer, your stormwater. Those are user fees, and tax money does not mingle with these type of funds. So they're solely dependent on revenue from stormwater, sewer, water sales, and some other smaller line items. But your two biggest supporters of this budget is the sale of water, the sale of sewer. Then we have tap fees, and we'll talk about tap fees. Tap fees are only incurred when the piece of property is developed. When the house or building is put on there, it is paid by the builder, not the developer. So those tap fees are specifically what you can do with them. They go into a separate fund, a restrictive fund, capital recovery. The tap fees go into to the enterprise fund. The capital recovery fee that's based on tap fees go into a capital recovery fee to be used for future developments of infrastructure, new infrastructure within the utilities department. So again, these funds don't commingle with the general fund, so just want to make sure the public knows that when they say, well, I pay enough taxes, that could be true, but it doesn't go into the enterprise fund. As you can see, the biggest revenues is water, sewer, capital recovery, and septic dump fees. What that is, if you ever come by City Hall and you see a septic truck sitting out front, we charge them to dump their product into our sewer system, and we treat it, and we charge for that. So that's a good little producing revenue we did probably 10 years ago. With all the rain, it usually goes up because septic tanks get full, and then they have somewhere to dump it. Next slide. The major factors of revenue, you can see this is directly tied to building and to the weather. People say, well, how does the weather control it? Right now, we have a low number for selling water because it's been raining. If it rains a lot, the sprinkler system doesn't come on as much, so therefore his revenue is affected by the weather. Building has slowed down to what people believe. It really has slowed down a little bit, which means his tap fee revenue is down. So that affects his budget dramatically. Also, when we have main breaks, service breaks, that's a loss of revenue because we don't get to capture that revenue. It goes out when we have major breaks. And people always ask us, why does it take so long to fix a service line? Well, by state law, we have to wait 3 days for locates unless it's an emergency. We can only use that so many times for a true emergency, but we still have to wait 2 hours once it's called in for us to start digging. Those are state laws. So that's why people see sometimes us stand around. We're just waiting for the locate permit to come active so we can start fixing it. Like I said, weather affects sewer rates. Right now, his budget is he's not even tracked to sell in the water what he sold last year just because we've had such a wet year this year. So it does affect that as well. Of course, with all the expenditures we'll get to in a minute, it also has affected that. Infrastructure, next slide, Kyle. We're really starting to see the effects of the boom from the 90s when everything was built in the city. If you've been here long enough, you know that 90s we doubled our population. That's from a lot of subdivisions that were built in the 90s. That infrastructure is hitting 20 plus years and it's failing. A couple meetings, we just got approval to replace the Chandler Hawk pump station, which is 22 years old. Those have a shelf life when they need to be replaced, so the lines are at that age where we're going to start replacing them. That one project is estimated at $1.8 million for roughly 5,500 linear feet of sewer line. So you can see it gets very costly, and that money comes directly from this fund. General fund doesn't pay for it. Enterprise fund pays for this stuff. So one of the reasons we kind of need to raise rates is we need to look at possibly bonding some money to fix some of these projects, and we're going to get to in just a second. Some of these lines are older than 20 years, some are 40 years, but majority are 20 plus years, and we've got to start replacing now. Next slide. As you can see, the capital improvement. So capital is something that you put in the ground that's new. It's not a repair, it's something new, a replacement. So that's what's considered, we call it a CIP, capital improvement plan. We do these every 5 years. I have a 5-year plan. So you can look for the last 25 years, this is what the city has done. And most of it is within the plant. 2012, we did a first upgrade to the sewer plant. In 2018, we started it. We finished it in 2021. That's what doubled our capacity. We extended a water line on Highway 78, 12-inch water line. We, of course, ran the 2 new water lines from the city of Monroe and also Claude Brewer pump station. That was all new within last year. We just had the Breckenridge Road washaway. That was a major stormwater / road replacement. That itself was $800,000. So unlike businesses or private citizens, we are not allowed to go to the bank and borrow money. There's certain things that we have to do by law that has to get money. We just can't go and borrow money. So we have to have reserves, which we do, but we try not to use them because the reserve is for major catastrophic expense. Reserves not made to balance your budget, which a lot of people think you should. I'm a strong person against that. It's taken us many years to get to where it is now, but it can only take 2 projects to do away with it. So we're looking at possibly bonding some money, but with that, we gotta have money to pay the loan. So this is something Brandon and I have been working on for the last couple of years. The last water rates we had was in 2020, which we'll see the next slide. Go ahead to the next slide, Kyle. So I've asked Brandon to produce 10 capital projects that need to be done right now, and these are Brandon's top 10. This is not mine. This is not the city council. This is the people that work in the field. What are their top projects, and these are the 10 top projects. Several of these we've tried to get grants through. The bigger one is the outfall line. That's your sewer line that goes backside of Ray Road. It goes to the plant. That line is in dire need of upgrade. It carries probably 40% of the sewer's capacity for the city. We tried 2 different years to get funding through CDBG, Community Development Block Grant. We've been denied for that. So there are some other funds that you can use. We'll try to apply for them, but most of them require a match. We just don't have the money at this time to do the projects. And the reason we're looking at a bond, it's easier to borrow the money now to do all projects versus piecemealing it over 5-6 years. Because I promise you, today is a lot cheaper than 5 years from now. These projects will significantly grow in 5 years. So either we do them now or we're forced to do them. Because once they break, you don't get a question of if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. So it's just a matter of where the money's going to come from. So, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Is there a timeline for these projects, like you're gonna do the number 1 in a month, and
Well,
number 2 in 6 months?
What we'd like to do is go out to bid, bond, and then what that'll do, this was a very rough figure from our engineers. If it's something that we get approval for and get rates, we'll look at doing a bond. I've already had the first conversations with some bond people that gave us a previous bond. We looked at the funding, the percentage rates. Of course, percent has went up. Now we're looking at minimum 3. Currently we're at 1.8%. The last bond we did was in 2019. That was $4.5 million, and we've roughly planned $600,000 a year over a 10-year period. It's called the supplemental bond. It was on top of the 2018 bond. So
And it was 1.8%? What'd you say that
the
was?
percentage was 1.8%.
Okay.
Now we're at minimum
Now
is
you're
3.
three.
It could be closer to 4. We don't know until.
Okay.
But the great thing is our credit rating, which we'll talk about that later. But to answer your question, we would like to, if we do a bond, do all these projects at the same time. So you're probably looking at 6 months to do a bond, another 6 months to a year to design all these projects. Bid is probably 60 days, and then you're looking at within 18 months.
Doing them all at the same time, just like you said?
Well, yeah, they would prioritize it because you may not have the same contractor that does sewer that may do stormwater.
Okay,
So we would look at that.
okay.
But we would prefer to do as much as we can, but even with the revenue that we project, it won't be enough to do $10 million, I don't believe. But these are just some of the projects, and like the Channel Hawk number 1, that's already being done, so that could come off the list. It's being designed now, and then hopefully go out to bid in the next 60 days.
Still need the money for it though, right?
We still need the money.
And while we're on this, just to clarify for anybody that looks into this, where it says library lift station, that is the current library, it is not for the new library.
No, so when you see lift station, that's just the location.
Right,
It
but-
services most of your downtown corridor.
But you know the
Yeah,
word library
yeah.
and lifts.
That is a pump station. That's a 43-year-old pump station. So, and I'm gonna correct myself. So the force main, the 1.8 was approved through ARPA, our capital recovery. So that's kind of already earmarked.
Okay.
So,
So ARPA's gone, basically?
no, we still have,
I
next
mean,
page.
once this is used, the 1.8, right?
We'll-
Because that's about all you have in ARPA.
could be.
Okay.
So next is the financial stability. So this just tells you all kind of where we're at. So ARPA has really kind of saved us a lot of the stuff. It was, for the public, it was a little over $4.8 million we've received several years ago. You can see funded to date, we spent, this is actually what we spent, $1,235,122.85. Projects that have been earmarked is $1.8 million, and then what's remaining is $1.859. So we do also have capital recovery money that we can use, but that money can only be used for new infrastructure. So that could be possibly, we could use that, for that as well. But once that 1.8 is gone and capital's probably close to 2 million, you still got 7 million you got to fund. So that's kind of where we are at ARPA, because I know a lot of people ask, well, why don't you just use ARPA? We will. You'll see tonight we're going to ask you to spend some more of it. We had to have it spent by 2026. We had to have it earmarked by end of this year, which we already have it earmarked. Any questions on that? Next slide, Kyle. All right, so this is the rates currently. So I don't know exact year it was, but it was 2012, maybe 2010. The council approved a five-year rate increase on even years, and the last one was in 2020. It was a 2%. As you can see what 2% equates to, 45 cents for your water bill and 43 cents for your sewer bill. And that was in 2009, your minimum sewer bill was $39.10. That was for 2,000 gallons worth of water. In 2024, it is $44.80, difference of $5.70 or 14.58%. Now, just show the people, in 2010, what we actually spent in the enterprise fund was $4,199,000. What we spent in last audit was $8,805,000, an increase of 109%. But his revenues only went up 14.58% for water and sewer. That didn't include stormwater, that didn't include anything but just water and sewer. So what has
Yeah, a lot of
helped us,
that difference was because of new construction, is that not correct?
yes, man, that's what I was about to say. What has helped us a lot build that reserve, because somebody may say, well, you just put away $1 million in the last audit in reserve. That is true. But if you look at the tap fees last year, was at one sewer, I believe, was 1.4 million. To date, we've collected 300,000. So you can see $1 million.
$2 million coming your way, though, approximately $2 million.
Yeah.
Coming your way, headed.
Yeah. That could be there, but when, we don't know. So there are houses that have been slated to be built, but what we got to remember, tap fees are not paid when the property gets rezoned. They're paid when the house is built or the building's built. If you look at the cottages, it was zoned in 1999. It just came to fruition in 2021. So it could be 20 years. It could be 2 months. Who knows when they're going to build? I don't know. But to answer your question, yes, there are $2 million worth of tap fees that's on the books, because that's how many houses we can build roughly. I forgot the number of houses, but it was $2 million and some change, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So yes, so once that's gone, it's gone. Tap fees are great
$2.5 million,
when,
Danny.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
2 million, I was just going, 2 million 5.
Yeah, 2.5 million. So they're great when we have subdivisions come in, but as you all know, we're running out of land. And with Tut Farm being tabled, that property, and you got few other properties, but after that, you're gonna see tap fees go away unless we just start having people come out from the outside of the city limits and ask to be annexed, which could happen if they want sewer, but that's why our reserve has been so healthy in the last several years, because we've had a lot of building going on. Cottages, Logan Point, you got Miami townhomes coming on, so those have helped us. But the 20 years before, you may be waiting for it, but these projects, they need to be done now. They can't wait. They're critical. Next slide is the senior rate. So unlike any other utility company, we're the only ones that offers senior water rates of anybody that surrounds us. So 2020, you still see that 2%. What it meant to the senior was 35 cents for the water, 43 cents for the sewer. In 2010, the minimum bill was $34.45. In 2024, it was $39.55, an increase of the same, roughly 14.8%, but $5. So $5.14. I promise you the expenditures have went up more than $5 or 14%. And same, again, you see the same expense for the water department. It's doubled. Commercial rates, next slide, they also is hit with a 2%. And you can still see theirs is a little bit lower in percent, but still $6 versus 12%. Commercial is about 28% of our sales of water and sewer. 72% is what we call residential, including seniors. What we're proposing is a 12% increase across the board for all utilities. That's 12% on the minimum bill, 12% on the tiers, and 12% on the stormwater fee. The stormwater fee is a little bit different calculation for commercial versus the resident. Resident, this is a flat $5. So we kind of looked at it, what was the most less painful, as you'd say, I guess, to do this. I can tell you we don't take this lightly to raising rates, because I know you don't like it all. I don't like it. The public doesn't like it, but it is a business. It operates solely on utility fees, and we're going to start spending some money on fixing projects, and if we're not proactive, it's going to hurt us, because we're going to get playing catch up, and we don't like to play catch up, because nobody wants to be hit with maybe a 40% increase versus something that we can manage. So we try to keep it as low as possible. Next slide, you can see what 12% looks like. So the column current is what currently is. This is for residential customers is $23.04. This is just for water. And by the way, no other entity offers water in their tiers. We're the only one that does. We're the only one that does that, or there's some other offer. So yeah, we're the only ones that offer 2,000 gallons. Most is a minimum bill that includes no water, but we include 2,000 gallons. Current rate would go to $25.80. Senior citizens, the next group below, they're currently at $17.79, would go to $19.92. Commercial is $24.49 and would go to $27.42. And then the tiers would move up as well. So if you use more than 2,000, you'd hit tier 1, more than 8,000, tier 2, more than that, tier 3. Same thing for sewer. Next slide. You have a minimum bill for that. Now, residential and senior is the same because there's no senior rate for sewer. Commercial is $29.63 and would go to $33.19, and residential is $21.76, would go to $24.37, and then the tiers would go up. Next slide is your reuse. Currently, there's only one subdivision that has reuse. This is what their reuse is, the water that we treat and resell versus going down the creek. So it's a 12%. Currently 15 would go to $16.80, and tiers $3.20 would go to $3.58. So that's non-portable water, means you can't drink it. It's only used for irrigation. The biggest use of reuse is the plant. It uses reuse at the plant, which saved us a good bit of money when we did phase 2 of the plant expansion. That was one of the things we added was reuse. Next slide, Kyle. Oh, I'm sorry, stormwater. $5 goes up to $5.60 for 12%, and then commercial is based on the calculation.
May I just, you and I talked about this, but I had several phone calls from people, commercial people, wanting to make sure that as the tiers went up, the rates went up. In other words, the people that used more water paid more.
Yeah, all tiers went up.
Danny confirmed that for those of you listening, because you're not sitting in here. The water rates do go up the more you use.
Yep.
So that, hopefully that answers your questions. Thanks, Danny. Just wanted to get that while we were there.
Wait. The water rates don't rise on your usage. You just pay more because it's more per gallon.
The tiers
right?
go up.
The tiers go up.
The tiers
Yeah,
go up.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can see that previous slides, underwater. Tier 1, 2,000, 8,000 is currently $6.66. Next tier 2 is $8.30. Tier 3 would be $13.27. And those also have a 12% increase. That's part of the Water First community that was required of us back in 2012 when the city of Loganville became Water First. That also gets us a 0.5% off of interest rates if we go with the federal loan. Back to the next slide. This is the graph. We all love our graphs so you can actually see. So these are all the entities that Brandon's department or staff looked at. Brandon and Joe's the one that put this slideshow together. They spent months working on this because I gave them half a dozen different options to look at. This was probably the simplest to explain. So you can see that we're in the green. That is what we're proposing is $50.17. That will be the new rate, and you can see where we equal with all the others entities currently using 2,000 gallons of water and sewer. You can see the red line is currently what we're at. The next line below that, the peach will be the new senior rate, and then the red line below that would be the current senior rate. So you can see we're kind of at the bottom. And the note about this, the only person cheaper than us is the city of Monroe. Walton County may be cheaper, but they don't provide sewer. That is just their water. Ours is water and sewer. Next slide. Commercial, you can see the red is where we're currently at. We're at the very bottom. And the purple would be the new rate. Now this is, explain this so you don't think we're at the very bottom because it looks like we need to go up on this, but a lot of entities charge for a meter size. We don't. We have a base charge, but they have a lower tier rate. So this benefits the commercial that uses hardly no water. But the more water you use, we're more in line with these bigger companies up top because our tiers are higher. And just so y'all know, there's about 550 commercial accounts and the rest are residential. And we have about 6,000 accounts. Or 57. Yep. Next slide. If we do a 12%, this is what we're projecting. This is all projection because it's based off of last year's what we actually sold. So if we sell less, we get less. If we sell more, we get more. But this is what would look at. So your residential for water is 160, sewer 157. Your tiers will bring in 154 and sewer will bring in 106. And you can see the commercial is 19, 23, 102, 78. Reuse is $2,700. Stormwater $66,000 with a grand total of $872,000. Now I will tell you that I just balanced Brandon's budget actually this morning, or I should say we did, because I didn't do it by myself. And I put in $800,000, and his budget only went up by $300,000 because he lost $500,000 revenue because I had to move it because it was capital recovery and it has to go in its own fund. So that only produced $300-something thousand. Was it 364? So that was 364 additional than what he had in his budget that he presented to me several months ago. So it does seem like a lot, and it is a lot to people that don't deal with a big company, but for us, it's 12%. We didn't take this lightly. I want citizens to know that, but you know, it is about a business, and we have to operate it. Our costs, y'all, have went up tremendously, just like everybody's in this room's costs has went up. I promise you, your natural gas, your gasoline has went up more than 12%. So all these costs hit us because, you know, everything that the citizen buys, utilities buys it too. We looked at electricity this past week. It has went up. Do you remember the percent? Chemical costs has went up a good bit. But the biggest is staff costs. That's probably one of the biggest increases they've had is staff, and we cannot fill these positions. We still have, how many open? 2 out of Department of what? 8? How many's in that department? 8? Yeah, so 2 don't sound like it, but when you only have 4 people, it's a lot. So it's just, even with the generous raise that you all gave them, it's still hard to find these people that want to work in the field. Our overtime cost it's out the roof. It's just because we just don't have enough people to work. And if you own a company, I think everybody would stand up here and say, as a business owner, I 100% agree with that. But I don't have the option of not fixing your water. You want to upset a citizen, turn their faucet on, no water comes out, and see how many phone calls you get. But they do a tremendous job with the staff they have, and hats off to them. But, you know, we do have to look at getting some more funding. And the only way to get funding for the department is to raise rates. It's solely dependent on rates. So I just want y'all to know we didn't take this lightly at all.
Danny, say again how much Brandon lost out of his budget, 300?
So we added 800, so what he turned in, his budget he turned in, was a set number. I
Okay.
added 800,000 with this number.
Okay.
And then at the end of the budget, it tells me what I'm off by,
Uh-huh,
and I was only ahead by $364,000.
okay.
But I had to take, he had some capital recovery money in there that cannot be in there because it's
So
earmarked.
that had to come out.
Yeah, because it can only be used for projects. It cannot be used for salaries, for repairs, for vehicles. It can
Right.
only be for new, think of it, new pipes that go in the ground. So I had to take it out and put it in capital recovery. But for him, that's part of his revenue.
Right.
And we have to present a balanced budget to you all. We don't have to finish with one, but we do. We spend less than we make, which is good. That's what we've done every single year I've been city manager. But, you know, the bad side about Enterprise, not to get too technical for everybody, is and Natalie knows where I'm going with this silly depreciation in assets that I have to book. So last year, we was hit with a $2 million depreciation schedule, which means I have to earmark that money. It doesn't come out of my revenue, but it goes from unrestricted to restricted. And that's in case we default on bills, they have money to go pay off creditors. That's what it is,
Does it stay restricted until it's paid off?
until the depreciation of the life.
So you don't get to reduce it every year based on
No,
how
we
much
add to
you
it
pay
every year. Yeah, every time we build something, buy something new, it adds to that. So I had Natalie look actually today because asset numbers should go down as depreciation goes up or vice versa. So our assets do go down, which helps us on some, but then depreciation goes up. So it's almost a wash. But we're constantly adding to it because in the general fund, you don't have to depreciate. But enterprise, because it's a business. So it's really hard for somebody that doesn't work in government to understand that, because enterprise is the business fund of a government, where the tax side, called the general fund, is the government side. So, you know, it's based on taxpayers' money. But enterprise, it's user fees. So, like if you live outside the city, you don't pay property taxes, but there's a lot of properties that get water from the city of Loganville that do pay it. So, not to bore y'all, but
Danny, how much water do we use every day?
it ebbs and flows. I can tell you in last
Average.
year, in April, from April, we used 300 and, do you remember the number I told you? 364,
It was a lot.
I have my phone over there. 364 million gallons a year. We're roughly 1.3 million a day, roughly.
1.3 million gallons a day. Where does all that come from?
Monroe and Monroe and Walnut Grove. God dang, I can't talk. Monroe and Walton County.
They give it to us?
No.
Yeah, that's why their rate's lower than ours.
I know. We're in the unenviable position of having to buy
Yeah, so
every drop of
everybody-
water that comes into the city.
That we buy water from has their own water source. Monroe has a reservoir. Walton County shares it with Newton County. Gwinnett, of course, you know, has their own, and which is Lake Lanier. We were asked nicely to be removed from that because we're in two different river basins, because the water that we treat doesn't go back to Lake Lanier, it goes to a different catch basin. So that's why they wanted us off. I believe Melanie asked the question, well, when we did that Monroe line, that was told it was gonna save us money, and it has saved us money. Because we're paying $3.73, I believe, with Monroe per thousand, and Gwinnett, we were paying $5.71, I believe, 51 cents.
They were high.
So, you know, that's $2 for every thousand, and when you're talking about millions, it adds up. So that has prolonged from 2020 till now, but it's just, with projects so high and personnel costs being so high, it's just a matter of time before it catches, and it's caught us. We can certainly not raise rates, but we're not gonna, we have to start building new infrastructure. That's one of the things that the, city hasn't done, because a lot of it's because we're in a recession in 2008 till 2013. You didn't have that money to spend. When you have so many foreclosures, guess what? If you got your house that's sitting empty, you don't make no money off of water sales or sewer sales. So I understand why Bill couldn't do it. But we're gonna have to start replacing this infrastructure. If we don't, we're gonna be under a consent order from the EPD, like we was back in 1997, 96 for the plant. That was the reason we did the first upgrade to the plant. We don't wanna get in that situation. It's not fun. So it's kind of like raising taxes. I've only done it once. Hopefully this will be the only time I do it, and then I can go right off in the sunset and not have to raise it again. But it just wasn't, it's not a spending problem, because a lot of people say, oh, just quit spending. It's not a spending problem. If it was, we wouldn't be putting money away in the account. This is a capital improvement problem that we have to start replacing some of these lines now.
Can you explain the consequences of the EPD if they do step in?
Well, consent orders, they come in and say, this is deficient, you fix it now. They don't care what it costs or anything, you will fix it. I've never been under a consent order. Hope to God I never have. But you could probably call Chris Yancey. When he first got hired, I think he had a consent order. Is that correct? Chris, you was here. It's a mandate. It's what it is from the federal government. But we still got to talk about 10%, but y'all got any more questions? And I keep moving. But 10%, the committee asked me to look at 10%. In the next slide, you'll see what 10% looks like. So we still try to keep that $870,000 coming in. So you go down on one, you got to go higher on the other. It's just simple math. So we said, if we look at 10% for the residential, what does that do to commercial? And we'll see. So 10% would be, go to the next slide, Kyle, right there. So currently is at 2304, it would go to 2534, and I'm gonna flip to my 12%. It's not a lot. Too many pages. So you're looking at 2580 at 12% versus 2534 for 10%. It's not a lot of money. Your tier goes from at 12% from 746 to tier 1 at 10% 733. It's 20-30 cents. Senior, you're looking at 1957 at 10% versus 1992. And just for average senior uses about 3,000 gallons a month. That's the average in the city. Our software tells us that. Average for residential is like 4,600 gallons. So 10% for them, and then for commercial, it was 17%. Now, commercial, you're going from, at 17%, it's $28.65 versus $27.43. So you're looking at roughly $1.40 on the minimum bill. And then your tiers, where it's going to hit them, because usually commercial uses more water than the residential, $8.90 for tier 1. I'm sorry, I'm looking at sewer. Water, $9.34 for tier 1 versus $8.94. So, but I think the analogy was, well, commercial can adjust their rate because they can adjust what they're selling to make up for that, where residents have a harder time making up that. I don't want to put words in council's mouth, but correct me if I'm wrong. That was what was said to me is commercial can make up that revenue versus where a citizen, you can't go to his employer and say, I want more money because my water bill went up. But
Well, I said that, and
Yeah,
also.
I don't wanna-
Well, no, when we were talking about, you was talking about the car washes, and they're using 300, what was it, how many gallons, you know, it was, I think, an exorbitant
400,000,
amount.
yeah.
And they're making profit on
Yeah.
that, where at my house, I'm not making profit on the water I use at my home. It's for my personal use, and it's something that everybody has to have. It isn't, you can't live without water. Businesses are making money, and we're also buying their services. And as a business myself, when I get an increase in anything that I bring in, I just adjust my rates accordingly, and that's what everybody's gonna do. But again, the average person out there
Can't do that.
cannot
Right.
go to their boss and say, hey, look, it's gonna cost me an extra 30 or 40, 50, $60 a year in my water. Your boss is gonna go, it's not my
Tough.
problem.
Exactly, so, yeah, that's where, it came out of committee, so that's why we we're asked to look at it, and that's what we came back with.
May I-
So,
I'm sorry. May I make a comment? Sure. I had several phone calls from people that owned small commercial businesses, and they made it very clear to me that if we go up, if they have to increase $1 on the product they sell, and it's a product that you don't have to have, you voluntarily go in and do some sort of entertainment or whatever, you don't have to be there. They said they literally lose business. To us, it doesn't sound like much, but that's what I'm told by the people that have these small businesses. They had no problem with the 12%. They did think that the people that, you know, had more water usage, which is what you're doing right now, should pay more. But they were quite vocal about it. And I don't have a small business, so I have to depend on what they tell me.
yeah. And, you know, we looked at, you know, several bills, and I know, Masher, our conversation today, what's your bill? So we looked at Patty's bill today, and at 10%, it was $5 and something, I believe. So at 12%, you add another 2%, so you add another couple cents on that. So it's not a lot, but believe me, I don't want to sit here and say that it's not a lot when somebody's making it on cents. It can be to a certain person, but in the scheme of things, we try to make it as less painful as possible, and I think 12% is just a good number for everybody. But I also do agree with Melanie. Companies can adjust because they just simply go up on their product. But I don't think, you know, 17% is going to put nobody out of business, but I don't know. I don't know their profits.
I don't either.
Explain one more time. Kyle, can you bring up where we stand in the commercial rates at 17%? You said there was a reason why we look like we're near the bottom. And that chart does show that. I think you gotta go, there you go, I think. Come back down to the head.
So this is just, you know, based off of 2,000 gallons of water and sewer. So we're at the very bottom.
Yes.
But like, I think Bill asked this question at a committee meeting, like Gwinnett County, they charge $5 and whatever, 71 cents. But that's for all tiers. But they also charge $600 something for the meter, where we charge $29. But on a Walmart, who is a large volume water, we're actually making more than Gwinnett is because our tiers are so high. So it kind of evens out. So this is kind of a, I ain't gonna say a fault slide, but you know, it's hard to do where we are with when you got 6,000 accounts. So if you're a small business owner, which 400 and something of the commercial accounts are 2 inches or smaller meters, which is a small, like Campton Place is a 2-inch meter. A lot of businesses on Main Street are 1-inch meters. So they're gonna fall. We looked at doing what other entities do and charging a minimum based on meter, but you know, your bill would have increased by $100 and something in a month.
Right.
That could make a big game changer in a business when you're talking about $100 a month.
Understand.
So we quickly threw away that plan because it was just, I couldn't justify going up $100 on somebody in a month. Now, are they gonna go up $100? Yes, if they're a big box store, yeah, they're gonna go up probably, you know, you just do 12% on a $1,400 bill, it's gonna be significant. But they're using a lot of water too. But I don't think Walmart's gonna bat an eye at 12%. I don't know if they'll even wanna call us. But you go look at maybe the Wren Group, she sees her bill go from $54 to $154, she's probably gonna call.
Or a small
So-
restaurant.
Small restaurant, so that's why we went away from the meter charges. And then, you know, I don't know how they I don't want to speak for an entity, but, you know, a meter, sewer's not metered. It's based off your water cells. There is no sewer meter. So I don't know how they justify, well, it's a meter. Well, I don't have a sewer meter. So that's why they call them a base charge now. But we did away with that, and we just said, you know, 12%, you're still going to get your 2,000. We left everything the same because we looked at changing this whole entire billing system to be more in line with all entities, but we're special for a reason, right? We got to be better than the rest of them.
That's
So
right,
not to say that we're better than Monroe. Don't listen, Logan. We're not.
We set the high standard.
Yes, it's, but we are at the mercy of the people that we buy water from. And in a couple of years, you'll probably see another rate increase when the contract is up for renewal, because it's a 10-year contract for water sales. So I can tell you the last contract renewal for Walton County, they went up from $2.63 to $3. And what are you gonna say, no? Because you gotta buy water from them. So we're kind of at their mercy. We're very fortunate to have City of Monroe and Walton County work for us, because I don't know what we do if we didn't have water. Or I know what we do, we'd go out of business,
Wouldn't exist.
so. But,
There was also a lot of discussion about, just to clarify, about the senior rate. I was shocked, honestly, when we looked at the surrounding municipalities. None of them offer that. But your council decided we wanted to do that because it's, in our opinion, it's the right thing to do. So that is not going away, unless they change their mind.
no,
Well, and you weren't going to bring that up, but since you did, I did say something about the senior rates, and what I ask is if sunsetting for new seniors is leaving it in place for existing seniors, but as new people moved in, that they would not be eligible because a gallon of water costs the same for the city, no matter who drinks it. And I'm completely fine if we don't do that. That was just a thought.
Okay.
yeah, it's just, you know, there's a lot of conversations, but until you vote, it's just a conversation. So, you know, it goes back to, you can't out-talk social media, but actually I said, you know, maybe we should cap the seniors, but that was just a conversation. You all said no, move on. But, you know, you do have to look at it to a business, but you also got to look at it as helping your citizens, so. But there's
Next
nothing
to
wrong with talking
veterans
about it.
And first responders, but that's another topic.
They got plenty of money.
Well, being honest, inflation in the water and sewer business has been astronomical the last 4 or 5 years. We all know that. We also know that in order to be competitive with our salaries, we had to make a big adjustment because we were not previously. And all of that, when it comes down to budget and doing capital projects, all of that surfaces, and you have to look at where you're at, just like you do at home, just like I do at home. So it's not one of the easy decisions to make, and it's not one that you look forward to making it, but somebody's got to make it.
If it matters, I went back and I started March of 2023 and compared to March of 2024, I took the income and the expenses in both of those categories, and you were right about exactly $1 million less in the 2024 year. So that kind of complements what Danny's up here saying as far as less revenue coming in and less bottom line anyway.
I don't know if it shows it.
Did you do that too?
Yeah, if you go to page 138 in your packet,
Oh, I don't have my packet.
Kyle, can you go to page 138? So, oh, he's not there. If you can't, Kyle, I can talk about it. So if you look at on the, where it says water tap fees, you see $500,000. So last year it was 1.5 million that we actually brought in. This year I knew, I mean, you don't have to be a rocket science to do a budget. You can just look at where the trend's going, and we dropped it to 500,000. And you can see as of May 2nd, we collected $216,000.
Yeah.
So that's $250,000 out of his budget that I gotta know that he don't have. Just like that. If you look at sewer sales, he had $850,000 budgeted. We've only collected $468,000. Again, 50% that he's not gonna collect. And we only got May and June to collect. Guess what? There's no body building in the next 2 months. Those alone is $750,000. If you look at water sale, that's his biggest producing of revenue, $3.65 million. That is the same number I used for last year's budget. We've built houses, but people say, well, why, Danny? Why is it not going up? Well, I can tell you why. The weather. The rain. Rain's great because we're not in drought, but people are not using their sprinkler meter. We get a lot of money from sprinklers because everybody likes their nice yards. But when it rains every other day, you can see we've collected $2,911,000. If you what's called forecasting, if you divide that by 10 months, that's 300,000 roughly, and you times 2 more months, that's 600,000. He's not even going to get what we budgeted for, and that was a low number. I figured it. I like to bid low and come in high. I like to collect more than we think and spend less than we say. Sewer sales, $3,050,000. We've collected 2.5. That's going to be close. But those 4 line items is the majority of his budget. 3.6 for water, 3 million for sewer. That's 6,600,000. Take your other two at a little over $1 million. That's what, 7.5 million of a $9 million budget. I mean, to me, it's an eye opener. It's like, why didn't we do this last year? So we said, let's give it 1 year. But in that capital recovery, you see that 0, 0? Not the, Brandon actually, normally we budget in his budget because it collects it there, but him not being in accounting, he didn't know. I had to take 500,000 out of it. So when we present a budget, it has to equal, right? Whatever we collect, we spend when y'all adopt it. So I had to take that 500,000 out of revenue, which means I got to take 500,000 out of expenditures. So that really hurt him.
Why is it 500,000? Is it always 500?
No, this is what I budgeted.
Oh,
It's based
okay.
off a building.
Okay,
But when you see tap
comes out
fees
less.
down, that means capital recovery's down. Because
Okay.
it's directly
'Cause
tied
it is down.
to tap fees, yes.
Okay.
You can see what we've collected.
Down by a good bit.
You see we've collected 23,000 out of
Yeah.
500,000.
Uh-huh.
So, but that's a restricted fund. It just goes and sits until we build something for it. And it's taken, this is another point I want to drive home. People say, oh my God, y'all got $10 million in the reserve. Well, we do, probably 11 million. But how long has the city been in business? Since the 50s, or 60 since sewer. It's been collecting ever since then. And it's taken us that long to get there. These last 5 years have been really good because the building has been good. Mainly because of all these large tract lands bringing in $3 million in tap fees. That cottages, y'all, was a big revenue. But, you know, you can see he's only got a handful of revenue line items, but the next 4 pages are all expenditures. So when revenue goes down, guess what happens to expenditure? It goes down too.
Denny, is water quality control a whole separate thing?
That's the plant.
Okay.
Yep. So then you got sewer, that's outside the plant, that's the brown water. Water is what you drink, and then stormwater is from rain. The only fund that really funds itself is stormwater. Stormwater is 600,000, we're at 462,000, his budget is roughly 550,000. But it all goes in one pot under what's called the 505, the Water and Sewer Fund. So, as you can see, you don't see anything in there that says tax money or anything like that because it doesn't go. Now, I'm gonna correct myself because somebody's probably watching and saying, well, you can't mix funds. You can. I can use money from the enterprise to fund the general fund. That's at my discretion. But if you look and we stopped doing this. Natalie, is it in 4,400, the transfer?
Yes,
You know what line item it is? I don't see it.
it's be 4,400, 6111050.
I don't have it. So I haven't transferred money in probably 3 years because he doesn't have it to transfer. General fund's doing fine on its own, but I can tell you, back in the times of Bill Jones, general fund was getting supplemental by the enterprise fund, and it can do that. But it can't be the opposite. I can give them a loan for 12 months, but they have to pay it back. But since we do a lot of work in the enterprise fund, that's why we can charge it. Same thing with sanitation. A lot of that money goes into the general fund to fund the general fund, because we do a lot of work for them. All right, go back to the rates. Any questions? I am putting everybody to sleep. Real quick, I would just like to say to Brandon's been, last week, his celebration for his father's funeral life. He was out all last week. That's why I'm up here instead of him. He just got back actually tonight, from Ohio, but he thought it was important to come in case there was technical questions. And Joe back there, he did the PowerPoint, his first PowerPoint presentation. He did a phenomenal job, I think. So that's who put this together. If you don't like it, blame me. If you love it, praise him. Any questions on the rates? Okay. I'll just stay up here and talk about the other ones if you want me to.
So just to kind of recap, so he's talked about the budget. We're looking at this percentage rate increase. We're looking at, once, if we approve this, then he's looking at bonds. And right now, we still got a good rating, and we think we can get rates somewhere around 3%. And with the term limits of, you haven't got that far yet.
I think we're looking at 10 years, but 10 million, of course, I don't think we can afford 10 million, because, 5 million at 1.8, it was 566,000 for 10 years, unless we just go another 20 years, which I don't know if I want to do a 20-year bond on something that's only going to last 20 years, if that. A plant, a little bit different, because a plant can have up to a 50-plus year on the depreciation life. Water lines are about 20 years. So I would like to stay around 10 years, maybe kind of split the bond with capital recovery money and ARPA, do as much as we can, but I would like to come back to y'all in the next several months and come back with a formal, we would like to start just discussion with the bond people to see what the rates actually look like. 2 years ago, we dropped our rate, which is good. For the general fund drop, revenue, the expenditures stayed the same. We're still at AA2, general fund is at AA3. And I can tell y'all, Joe, those are directly tied to the reserve. They are tied to your debt to income ratio. We're still at a 2.1, but I'll tell you the first thing the bond guy said, the very first thing he said, Danny, I noticed your 2023 audit, your cash flows has decreased a little bit. And it has. That's the first thing he noticed. That's a bond person for you. But we're still at that 2-to-1 threshold. So for every $2 we bring in, we only have $1 in debt, which is great. Most entities are reverse. For every dollar they bring in, they have $2 in debt. We're not like that. I hate borrowing money out. But this is bonds what we're looking at.
Sure. So we'll bring this to council Thursday. You mean the next item, Danny?
Sure.
So the next item we have is the wastewater treatment plant. We have two new blowers out there. They're for the septic system. They've had some complaints about them being too loud, so they've looked at and come up with a price by Cornerstone Mechanical to build a little building to go over top of them to dampen that sound, make it what it should be. So the price that you have is $23,880.21. He's proposing to do that with ARPA funding. Incidentally, they got another quote for a different type of structure, not an enclosed structure. It was about $75,000, and then they started looking at another option to get a building, but it's not, it wouldn't work. It's not insulated, it's totally enclosed, and then it doesn't allow them to access the blowers for repairs. So, do you all have any questions on this soundproof building that we want to purchase?
The only question I had is there gonna be ongoing special maintenance required? Because I saw it has these special blowers and these things. Will there be an ongoing maintenance program that has to be in place with this?
So the building itself is made so that it can be opened up and have access to, so that they can do the blower maintenance to it. And anything else?
One thing I learned, I actually did a little research on the DVA, the decibels.
Decibels?
Okay. Above 85, and you start having hearing loss. So I hope, Ted's raising, he must have, are y'all wearing protective headphones or anything, or if you work around that area?
We just scream really loud.
When I read that, I thought, oh, I wonder if the guys are protecting their ears.
Yeah, they have personal protective clothing. If they do or not, I don't know.
Well, tell them above 80,
Yeah.
now, it won't be above 85 now, once you get that little thing.
Our intent is not no.
But, yeah, it was. So that kind of scared me a bit for the guys. Okay, that's it.
So with
Thank
that, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to put that on consent.
Is that everyone? Okay, everyone.
Thank you. I got one other item is emergency repair to the Willio pump. It was damaged by lightning, and the repair is $36,384. Using ARPA funds. Danny, you've already gone out for, the reason we pulled it off is he's trying to get reimbursement for damages, so, but we wanted to go ahead and get approval for the use of funds in case it gets turned down.
Yes.
And you already have
We've already set for be repaired. It was a pump that has to be, fixed.
right.
So we've already sent it to the insurance company. I don't know if we've heard back. We have
We've got a check.
for $16,000. So we'll just have to come up with the difference.
So we'll say, is everybody okay if we put this on consent? Sure. So I'd say that we would put this on consent. Well, obviously, it's not going to be $36,384.
$20,000.
We'll approve
What was
it
it? You know the amount
for
of
the
check?
difference of
Natalie, you know the amount of the check?
Be somewhere around 20,000.
somewhere around 20,000.
I think it was 16,684, if I remember correctly.
That's what I thought it was too. So you're looking at $20,000.
So we'll put this on consent with
Less the insurance funds.
less the insurance funds. There we go. Thank you.
Might pay for that next year when the rates go up, but you know what? We'll see.
All right. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Well, that was quite enough. Took the whole meeting, didn't he? That's okay. Got to get work done. Now we'll go to Public Works Facilities. Patty Wolf.
I don't have anything this evening.
Yeah, you do.
I do have a question, Danny. If we approve the rate increase on water, does that mean we're also approving the bond, or is that a whole
No,
separate
that's a
issue?
whole separate entity.
Okay.
Totally separate.
Okay, that's what I thought. I wanted to make sure.
Okay, thank you.
We will.
Thank you.
Now we'll move to Economic Development. Brandon
Hold on,
Woodford.
Mayor.
Skip.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'll have the date for you for Thursday if you want to talk about it, but we'll have a grand opening for Anna Holbrook. It is done. And we'll have some pictures. I meant to tell you that today, but I forgot.
Oh, for Thursday?
Yeah, I'll have it for
Great.
Thursday.
Okay.
So Christie's already put it on my calendar. I want to say it's May 16th, May 16th, but I'll confirm that when I go back over there. But we'll have a ribbon cutting, so have your speech ready.
My speech?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, I can talk. I can't speech. By the way, Public Works planted flowers on Main Street in the flower beds. They look really nice. So if you ride down, take a look. Now they gotta water them, Danny, right?
Yes, I believe the public health is about business on it.
Oh, good, okay.
I believe you also, Danny, just got the sweepers in town. How much trash did you pick up on the Curbins? 40-plus
It was
tons?
40 tons for 10 miles,
40 tons, 10 miles. Wow,
May 16th at 2 PM.
wow. Okay, thank you, Patty. And we'll move to economic development if y'all are ready. Brandon Whitfield.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no actual items tonight, but we do have 7 applications in for the DDA. And as we talked about the last meeting, we all get a pick. If we have 7 of them, it makes sense. But we didn't put it on the agenda for tonight because we only had 3 as of last week when the agenda was made. But since then, we've gotten 4 more. So we do have enough to go ahead and fill the board. And I do believe we need to go ahead and get it filled because on the LDA, their current terms for 2 of their members is for June. It's 2 members going off in June, right? And if they go off the board, then they don't have a quorum. So I believe Paul was going to speak on this as well.
Yeah,
Anything else to add?
I've got an item that's coming up on it too, but basically, we didn't put it on the agenda because you didn't have enough applicants, now you do. So if y'all want to consider those applications on Thursday night, then what would happen is you would appoint those 7 members. They're 6-year terms, but to start us over again, we do staggered 2, staggered 4, staggered 6. We've worked with Mr. Russell and worked with counsel for the LDA. We've got an IGA about legal services that's coming up here in a minute, but also we're almost finished with the IGA that will basically sort of transfer the responsibilities, if you will, of LDA over to DDA. That'll be ready tomorrow that we'll send over for everybody to look at. But basically, the 2 responsibilities they have as we sit here today is have some money sitting in the bank account. I don't know exactly how much I've been told, around $30,000. And then they have a pass-through loan obligation, which is essentially a GCF, Georgia Cities Foundation loan, from a redevelopment project that took place a few years ago. And that pass-through authority and responsibility, there's really no liability exposure. It's a pass-through loan. We'll get that transferred. We've already talked to GCF. They'll approve it. Won't be a problem. So that IGA will be ready. And so if you guys appoint on Thursday night, we have tentatively teed up and we've got the agendas ready, but we're not going to publish them until we know that we've got a board. You'd have an LDA meeting on Monday night, the 13th at 6 o'clock, and then shortly thereafter, we'd have an DDA meeting, sort of, it's not really an inaugural DDA meeting, but a restarted DDA meeting on Monday night, May 13th, a week from tonight at 6:30 here, to get those members going. We can swear them all in there. We can swear them in Thursday night, or we can swear them all in there, and then they can select their own chairman. We've found their old bylaws, and we can get the bylaws amended and restated, and we kind of get them all up and running again. So it's all dependent upon you guys appointing 7 members, and so we really weren't going to publish those agendas until we knew that we had a new board ready to go.
What was the deadline for the applications? Because I had someone that wanted to, but they had some health issues and they haven't turned their application in, so.
I don't know
So are
of
we
any
just going with
specific
the first
deadline.
7 people that did it, or we're not
No,
gonna?
we were not given a deadline.
We
This-
weren't?
The application,
Okay.
I believe, is still online, so
Okay. But they would need to get that in before Thursday then, that you're telling me?
y'all's decision, yes.
Okay.
Kyle, it's still on the website, correct? Yes. That's what I thought.
So I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, but basically, really, it's because the primary reason is you got this loan servicing, and you have this money sitting there. And I don't want y'all to be stuck in limbo, and your LDA to be stuck in limbo where they can't agree to transfer those obligations and responsibilities over to a new board when they don't have the ability to hold a quorum. So that's the reason why going to your question of why isn't this brought, a month in advance, is I was given the edict and the instruction, and let's get this done because of this sunsetting of the June 30th expiration of some of these members from the LDA coming off.
I believe we talked about that last month.
I think we did, yeah. I mean, this I've been hearing about for a little while, but in terms of just getting all the paperwork in so that we could get a meeting basically quickly so that they could then get their feet on the ground and get to going. I'll be happy to answer any other questions you have.
So Thursday night, you need us to approve the IGA.
Thursday night, yeah, I'll talk about the IG in just a second when it comes to me, but Thursday night, most importantly, for anything to happen, y'all have got to appoint 7 members, because right now you have no members appointed.
Okay.
And then if y'all do that and you approve the IGA, you don't have to approve that IGA, but I will recommend that you do, because it's a positive benefit for the DDA. And then next Monday, I'll come to their meeting, I'll get them started, we'll get all of their officers elected, we'll get their bylaws updated. We've already finished the update on them. We'll get them cleaned up and ready to go and bless them on their way, and then we'll stay in the mix and help them as much as we can on anything they need.
Very good.
A question came up last month about ex officio, a member that doesn't have voting rights and is usually also determined by council as a whole. Other cities usually have their mayor serve as the ex officio. It's a way to not get a rogue development authority if you have a member who's on the board that can sit on there. But it's completely up to the council if we want to do that or not. And there's other checkpoints in place that we could put in place. Obviously, Paul will also be, we'll talk about that later on about him being their attorney. So that's another checkpoint for it as well. So I just wanted to get y'all's thoughts on ex officio. They're a member, but they don't vote, but they relay kind of the city's thought process on it.
Sort of liaison.
Yeah, liaison. If that's something we want to have on the DDA, might as well go ahead and do it now.
I guess y'all can decide that on Thursday night.
I mean, it makes sense to have somebody bridge the two bodies. I mean, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. I believe that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay.
We got a lot of events coming up, but I'll wait till Thursday. I will
All right.
say the carnival will be in town Thursday, so I do want to mention it today. So for the ones who don't come to the meeting, can go to the carnival, or you can go to the carnival after the meeting on Thursday. So the carnival will be here before our next meeting here.
Okay,
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you. Okay, I guess, Danny, do you need more time?
Yes, I just need to know about the LDA, the DDA. Do y'all want me to keep it online? Do I need to take it off at a certain time? Just needed some direction from the mayor and council.
Well, like I said, I had some folks that wanted to, but I don't know if they'll be able to get them done and get everything notarized and get it here by Thursday.
Well, we can notarize if they come here, but they don't need to sign it until they come to the office. So
Why
I
don't
can,
we close it tomorrow, close the business? Just-
Yeah, I mean, because the applicants that have turned in, we have to have 4, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Well, I mean, I'm talking about the business owners or dirt owners.
Yes, you have to have 4 that have an economic interest.
Economic-
I won't get into all the
economic
definitions,
interest.
but you have to have 4 that are downtown business owners, for lack of a better word.
And we do already have 4 of those on here, so we already meet all the requirements that we need. So.
we can close it Thursday before the.
Well, I mean, I guess though, if we open it
Thursday
up,
before the council meeting.
Gives them Tuesday, Wednesday, and 5 o'clock on Thursday before the meeting. Think you got enough time to call them?
I'll come give them a call.
So Thursday at 5?
I was saying tomorrow at 5,
Oh,
Tuesday at 5. Yeah,
So
we've got to
say we
review them
have-
Thursday.
So then that'd mean, say we have.
Right, that's what I mean. It would give whoever Melanie knows the day, but we have to appoint 7 people and we have 7 applicants.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we get one more applicant, we got 8. Then what do we do?
Well, then we do the interviewing, or we do the appointing, and
How we
somebody's
do
left
an
out.
appointing compared to their
Of course, you could
bylaws
go to
through the
10,
DDA.
but we have to change bylaws before we can do that, right?
No, it's set by state law, 7.
That's set by
7.
state.
Okay.
So I would just say, Melanie, if your person can get it in before 5 tomorrow, then we'll run with it, but leave it at 5.
That's fine.
I think tomorrow will be adequate.
I've never been a fan of just taking the first 7 people that come to anything.
Right.
but-
Well, they had all month
Yeah,
to
it's Thursday.
apply, so I thought the
know, but
ones
We didn't
who,
put a deadline on it, so I thought I didn't realize we were rushing it through. I got you.
oh, but I don't believe it's,
That's fine, that's fine.
You think that's better?
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
okay.
So you're gonna take it off tomorrow, 5 o'clock. That would be right if tomorrow were Thursday, but it's not. Okay, anything else, Danny? Okay. City attorney's updates.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing we have on the agenda for tonight is for your consideration of an IGA between the DDA and the city, assuming that you get a new IGA appointed, basically concerning legal services. It's very common practice. It's done. I know that in the called economic development meeting, y'all talked about, resources and funding for DDA. So one way that cities do it is that they give the city attorney to the DDA, and we're happy to do that. A lot of your attorneys that represent DDAs are essentially doing it on a pro bono basis. Usually they're kind of tied to a city account. The lovely Miss Andrea has done an excellent job for the LDA for many, many years. It's totally up to either the LDA or the DDA to choose their lawyer. It's not a requirement that they select the city attorney. But by entering into this IGA, should the DDA choose to do that, then they get a free lawyer. It does help bridge the gap on some sort of communications and expediting of things. It does spell out, as I'm required to under my ethics, that if a conflict technically ever did arise, which they can, they usually don't, then there would have to be conflict counsel, and there'd have to be a parting of the ways and dividing of folks, and we'd have to deal with those on sort of a case-by-case basis. I've been doing it a long time. I've not seen any conflicts. So I don't think that there will be any. There's a first time for everything. But so we've drafted that for y'all as part of this overall sort of restart of the DDA. That'll allow them to use us to represent them on their matters. We won't attend their meetings regularly, but if they call, say, hey, we got something crazy coming up, or can you come to it, we'll be happy to do that for them. And so I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. But if y'all are in agreement with that concept, then basically y'all would just approve it Thursday night, and then we'll present it to them on their agenda on Monday night for them to approve it, and then we'll represent them and take care of them moving forward. Be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, and we probably need to plan on being there Monday night to swear the people in?
If you're not going to swear them in Monday night, I need you on Monday night to swear them in. I don't have to have everybody. Y'all are all welcome to come,
That's
of
fine.
course, but I just need you to swear them in either this coming Thursday night, all of them, or I would just think for ease, it'd probably be better to swear them all in at Monday night at the beginning of their meeting.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay. With that said, do we have executive session tonight? I know, yeah. Well, this gives us an opportunity to make anyone here that would like to make an opportunity to speak your mind. You have 5 minutes, and this is what we call the community feedback time. So have at it. Well, I know if I end this session and we go into executive session, I would need to tell most of the people here good night, because usually when we come back from executive session, there's a lot of empty seats, and that's okay. We understand. Don't know how long we might be there. Don't even know what we're going to talk about yet. So there's no one here that would like to have any community feedback. Well, with that said, I need a motion to close this meeting out, and then we'll open up executive session. So I have a motion? Have a motion? Second. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, this meeting is adjourned, and we'll open up executive session when we get there. Appreciate
So moved.
We got a motion, we have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're back in regular session. We can tell the audience that we discussed real estate matters, and beyond that, no decisions were made at this point in time. So with that said, do we have a motion that we can come out of our regular council meeting? Motion to adjourn. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?